Salute and welcome to the Fighter Driver channel. I'm Gabriel Oliveira, the Fighter Driver, and in today's episode I want to talk about some problems where Thunder is facing now, some problems the players are facing now, and the possible solutions that Gaijin can take to solve them, but also some actions the players can take to solve them. After all, not all the problems are Gaijin's fault, some of the problems are because of how the players interact with the game. Follow me and let's bring this discussion up, shall we? First of all, I want to say thanks to João Alonso, the Brazilian player who keeps the channel ST João Alonso 21 on YouTube. One of his videos was the inspiration for me to talk about this topic today. His content is in Portuguese, but I recommend you to follow him even if you don't speak Portuguese. He is a very skilled player and you'll see fantastic gameplays there. Thank you, João, for the inspiration and keep your amazing work. Link to his channel in the description. Secondly, I want to say that what I'm gonna bring up from now on are just my 2 cents, my humble opinions. They are not meant to be taken as the truth, and no one is supposed to agree with me. We can disagree and discuss those topics in a healthy, respectful way. So if you disagree, leave your comments in the comment section, and if you have similar opinions or you just want to point something different, bring your comments as well. I will only analyze it from a World War II fighter aircraft player's perspective. As I don't play ground ops, neither do I play naval ops. I'm not qualified to talk about them, just about air combat battles. But I believe some of the issues we'll discuss here also affect those kind of battles as well. It doesn't concern the arcade or simulation players either, as for those modes the game works according to different dynamics. That said, let's analyze which are the issues where Thunder faces now, based on my own observations, but also on other players' observations and on some points I took from João Alonso's video. I'll first bring the issue into discussion, then I'll talk about possible solutions, if any solution is needed, from Gaijin's side, and then I'll talk about possible solutions from the player side, because I believe that some issues are not Gaijin's fault, but the players are to blame in those cases. Let's start by raising the issues. Sometimes we face some factors which are way more powerful than ours. In some cases, the aircraft are pretty much similar in terms of flight performance, but their weapons are different in terms of range, accuracy, and destructive power. In some other cases, the weapons are pretty much the same, but the flight performances will be way different. It's worth to mention that it happens from low tier to top tier. A side effect would be that it makes harder for people to spade their aircraft and to grind the tech tree, as you're an easy prey to the bandits who are flying aircraft which perform better and are fully spaded. So what should be funny ends up being stressful and frustrating, especially if you're a casual player like me. And I'm casual because I'm a husband, I'm a father, so I have to work and provide to my family. I must give them attention, I must give them support, so my free time for playing ain't that much, and I know many of you are just like me. I agree that it happens, but is it the real problem? I mean, should a war game be fair? Well, if it were a sports competition such as sim racing, then you would expect some balance of performance or BOP. So everyone has the same chances when it comes to equipment, the decisive element being only the player's skills. But it's a war game, and wars aren't fair, are they? Both sides in a war are constantly trying to get better than their adversaries in terms of tech, but also in terms of tactics and strategy, and pretty much everything that might give them the edge so they can win the war, which brings us to the next point. When I started playing War Thunder some 2.5 years ago, things were pretty much the same as they are today. But I know that some time before my arrival in the game, the battles used to be allies versus axis or blue versus red if you prefer, with specific missions in place, replicating the real-life events, assets, and their placements according to the mission and the time they happened historically, with their advantages and disadvantages. So the teams needed to play with a strategy in mind, with the specific objectives in mind. Now the battles are generic, with generic objectives, with all sorts of assets mixed up. I mean blue assets and red assets in the same team, and in most of times crowded in the middle of the maps, and no matter if you're playing low tier or top tier, actually I don't care about top tier, okay? War Thunder for me is about World War II warbirds and maybe early jets. For modern jets we have better games and sims like Falcon BMS for example. But the point is that the missions are extremely repetitive, it's more of the same, and that's an issue. I know that in the past the matches would be longer as well. They'd last up to 45 minutes. Now in 25 minutes everything is over. Some people will say it's a bad thing, especially when you are in a team with less experienced players, because your team will be obliterated very fast and now you're all by yourself to carry the match. If it's a hard situation by itself, the clock ticking against you will make the situation even worse. Before the matchmaking process would give us 8 blue versus 8 red matches. Now it gives us 16 blue versus 16 red matches, and if your team is less experienced, they will probably be killed very fast, and now you have to deal with a one versus many bandit situation, which makes the situation even worse, some will say. War Thunder ain't about paying to win, as many people will say, because even if you buy the best assets, if you don't know what to do with it, like myself, you will lose anyways. However, as you have to grind through the tech tree, and you can do it a bit easier if you buy a given vehicle instead of just flying the aircraft you have in the operational tech tree, it actually means you can pay to progress and unlock your tech tree in an easier way. Does it make players to pay for premium vehicles so they can progress faster? I think so. Another question, does it make players not to fly their planes as much as they should, so they could learn not only their strong and weak aspects, but also how to extract the best of them? That's a good question. If you're not an experienced and skilled player and get with a terrible team during the match, you're screwed. But is it bad? Having little flexibility to act as a lone wolf is a bad thing, or is it even true? I mean, when you fly well and win, or at least play a good match, you feel very good. But most of times, especially for an average or even a less experienced player like me, you'll find yourself surrounded by the enemy team, and in many occasions, if you're not an ace like Daphne or Haven or João Alonso, or Noble and Wizard Bean who fly with me here in the fighter driver squadrons, it means that you can't carry the mission by yourself. Even if you fly well for your standards, it will be extremely difficult to do anything because most of air combat tactics depend on a team. But then you don't have one and it's very frustrating. Actually, this is the most frustrating aspect for me personally. So in many occasions, the player may be flying just for the grinding, which is a bad thing. I don't do it. I try to fly with the aircraft that I like and to improve my skills and tactics with those aircraft. But then it brings us to another problem. The constant changes in the aircraft flight envelope and performances. Since I started flying War Thunder, something a bit over 2 years ago, like I said, my favorite aircraft so far, the F4U family, has faced 3 flight performance changes. Do they get more realistic flight performance now? I can't answer that. I'm no expert in the Corsair's flight envelope, but the issue is we never know what to expect, and that's the problem, because you get used to a given plane's flight characteristics, and when you're starting to tame the beast, an update comes and now everything is different, so you have to start all over. So I don't know if it's a phenomenon that happens everywhere, if it's something that's affecting Gaijin somehow, but I talk to people in our small community and also watch other players here on YouTube, and I hear some of those people saying they're losing motivation to keep playing War Thunder because of those issues. And if that phenomenon is happening everywhere, Gaijin may face a problem with its current business model. The $1 million question now is, can those issues be solved? What could Gaijin do, and more importantly, what could the players community do? So now that we brought up those points, let's think about which of them, and if they are real problems, and which would be possible solutions to them, which should be solved by Gaijin and which should be solved by ourselves. The battle ratings should not exist. Looking for a fair fight against your enemies. This is a war game, and in war there is no such thing as fair fight. I know this point is polemic and many people will disagree from me here, and that's fine, but that's what I truly think about it. In a war, every side will put maximum effort to bring the maximum advantage in tech or performance they can bring so they can win the war. War is unfair in essence. It's not a sports competition, it's not the Olympic Games. If you're in the weaker side, too bad. You and your team will have to find a way to overcome those problems, be it by developing new tech that can give your side the edge again, or by developing tactics to maximize your strong points and deny your enemies their strong points. Never fight the way your enemy fights better. This is one of the first lessons that combat instructors will teach the noobs. So, instead of trying to keep battle ratings based on performance, make it based in time and historical knowledge. Which assets on the blue side faced which assets on the red side, given a specific theater of operations. I mean, which versions of the British Spitfires faced which versions of the Bf-109s in France in 1942. Which American Mustangs faced the German Messerschmitt 262s in August 1944? How awful was it to the Americans flying their F-4Fs to face the Japanese Zeros when the war in Pacific started? Were they in an enormous disadvantage in relation to the enemy in each of those scenarios? Well, yeah, of course, but that's war, pal. That's the menu for today, and the players must find a way to overcome this tech disadvantage by other means, especially through tactics. The contenders didn't give up, nor did they have anyone to complain about it being unfair. They thought about something they could do to deal with this technical gap between them and the enemies through tactics and strategy, until they had assets which were better in terms of tech. Isn't it the same in every single war? Nobody likes to be in the weaker side, but if that's what you've got, you must do something with it, and in many occasions throughout the history, the weaker side would win for being smarter. So sometimes I think that's what the players lack, being smarter, playing the game in a smarter way. Right? We're gonna talk about that. Yeah. Another thing that plays in favor to my argument here is that in a real war, there's no points for second place, as when you lose, you die, okay? So you don't come back to play the next match. But in War Thunder or in any other game, you can do it, okay? You're playing a game, so you die, you start over, you play the next match, alright? And then you can use it to learn how to explore your strong points and the bandits' weak points. Meaning, don't fight the way the enemy fights better. Make them fight the way you fight better. Learn through the process. Gaijin can make this happen by sorting things by historical data. Kind of coming back to what the matches were before, and then teach the players how to explore the tactics and develop teamwork by using tutorials or even giving better rewards to those who behave like that, who benefit teamwork. So players would favor it. Alright? It could help the players to think not only about their individual actions and seek to be the best, but instead favor the teamwork, how to think with the global mission in mind, think a strategy to reach the team's goals. Not just kill as many enemies as possible individually like a lone wolf, Again, battles and wars aren't won by individuals. For sure, some people are more talented and skilled than others, and they make the difference, okay? Those usually are the higher ranks and the leaders, squad leaders and something like that, officials, okay? High rank officials, yeah? But in the global scenario, everyone contributes somehow, okay? Even for the best pilot, he can't do much if he's alone against 20 bandits without wingmen, without allies to give them support, okay? That's the point. So I believe Gaijin can reformulate the realistic missions, bringing it back to what it was before, or at least to something similar, allies versus bandits, blue versus red, with the specific objectives to each kind of asset, be it the bombers, the attack planes, the fighters and the interceptors, and also the land and naval assets, so the players will have to work together in order to achieve those goals. If you choose to be a fighter in a given scenario and it requires you to give a score to the bombers so they can hit a given target, well, that's your mission. If you're flying in the red side over Europe, you won't be able to fly British assets, for instance, only assets from the red side. It may bring you to a scenario in which the bandit assets perform better than yours, but hey, that's exactly the previous point, right? Wars aren't fair. The objectives can be better placed around the map instead of being all concentrated in the middle of the map. I've flown some missions in the simulation mode, and they're way more interesting and closer to what I'm saying, with multiple objectives during the same mission in different points of the map, so maybe something like what we find in the simulation missions could be implemented in the realistic missions. Okay, not exactly the same thing, so after all, if they were the same, there wouldn't be any reason for them to be two different game modes, okay? They don't have to be exactly the same, that's not what I'm saying. But they could be similar in this aspect, in how the assets are organized around the map and this kind of thing, right? Another thing I believe Gaijin should do is to stop changing the aircraft's flying envelopes and performances. Find the most reliable performance data based on the information available, and that's it. Fix it. And now that it's fixed, freeze it. Changing flight performance all the time makes it difficult for players to master the aircraft they like to fly, because at every update those aircraft behave completely different. It is a nightmare, especially for the occasional player. It makes it even harder for one to master their favorite aircraft. Okay? Hey, but Gaijin does it as a way to try and find a good battle rating balance, someone would say. But that wouldn't be a problem if battle ratings didn't exist, which brings us to the previous point, okay? Now, when it comes to duration and number of players, I don't think that's a problem, depending on how the battles are structured. If we're talking about a big operation following the model we just proposed, the time and number of players could be even bigger, could be even longer, as long as the initial numbers are the same on both sides. With all that said and pondered, it's unlikely that Gaijin makes those changes, unless something drastic happens and they lose huge amount of players in the process, also losing a lot of money in the process. We must also consider that many players actually like the way the things are now, and maybe that's why Gaijin does things the way they are now. There will be other points to be made, and they will have their reasons to do what they do, so we must consider the scenario in which Gaijin doesn't do what we proposed here, or even doesn't do anything else people want them to do, which brings us to the part of this video which I consider the most important of all, okay? Because players can do things to solve those issues, or at least to make them better, okay? And they should do it anyways. Now, I'll talk about some polemic points, and I know many of you will disagree from me, and that's okay. I want that because if we talk about the different points of view, we can learn more and actually find effective solutions to things. Use the comment section for it, let's engage in a discussion here. Again, just please be kind and respectful to one another, huh? Well, that's the first thing anyone can do when they don't like how a game works. It is just to stop playing it and find another game they like better. They can do it just because they don't like the way the things go. That's why I stopped playing Gran Turismo 7, by the way. Or they can do it as a boycott if they are organized enough, so they can try and force things to be changed. If things don't change, okay, move away, find something else, and be happy, no matter what's gonna happen to that game after you leave. But War Thunder is a very nice game and we don't want to do it, at least for now, right? So if leaving ain't an option and Gaijin doesn't fix it, how can we do to fix it? The next thing we could do is not to focus on the grinding. Forget about unlocking every single aircraft in every single tech tree. It is good to fly different aircraft and learn about their capabilities, so you know what to expect when facing them as bandits for sure. But that's not the only way to learn about other aircraft's capabilities, and it doesn't help much when you don't master the aircraft you fly with the most first. Also, once the grinding is as hard as it is today, it can bring more frustration than learning process. Instead, find the tech tree you want to fly, focus on it, and once you fully spay the specific aircraft you really like, don't go to the next one, keep flying it. Try to really learn your aircraft's capabilities, try to master it, and only then move to the next one. But does your aircraft perform worse than the bandits you're facing during your mission? Well, as said before, it happens in real life. Of course, in real life, the military will always seek for new technologies which can overcome the current generation's limitations, and so should we do it in-game. But it doesn't happen overnight, and while it doesn't happen, we must find ways to explore our hardware advantages and deny the bandits' advantages. We do it through tactics, flying with other people as elements and squads. War Thunder is a war game and wars are not won by individuals. I believe the worst mistake that both War Thunder players and Gaijin itself make is not exploring the tactical and strategical aspects of the battles, focusing on individual skill. As we talked about before, in the past the missions were way more tactical oriented, but today they're all generic and it's Gaijin's fault. But even in those generic missions, the players can follow tactics, they can act in a tactical way, they can act as squads, but they don't do so and it's the player's fault. It is the player's fault because if you insist on flying your airplane the way it performs the worst, you're putting yourself in disadvantage. It's not Gaijin's fault, not the aircraft's fault, only the operator's fault. If you don't side climb when flying a P-47 because it is too boring or it takes too long to arrive there, you're giving your enemy disadvantage as he climbs to jump on you. You're putting yourself in that disadvantage position. If you don't team up with your allies in an intelligent way, but instead just fly straight to the middle of the map and then engage in a furball, low altitude, or maybe even on the deck with those bandits also flying there, you're giving the bandits flying high the opportunity to boom and zoom you and your allies like fish in a barrel, meaning you're not even trying to fly and fight your plane the way it's supposed to be flown. And then you want to complain that the game is broken? It's nonsense to me, I've seen it happening so many times, my entire team dying because they're doing the wrong thing, and then I'm the last man standing against 8, 10 or even more bandits, and being able to do little about it because I'm no Daffing, I'm no Heaven, I'm no João Alonso, and I can't carry the match by myself, but at least I try to do the right thing. And in many occasions I was teamed up with my pals from our small community here in Fighter Driver and we'd have amazing battles. By the way, there's a video coming soon with some amazing battles in which we're Noble, Wizard, Schoolboy and I teamed up, and in most of them we've not only won the matches but we were the best squad. Yeah, you can say, but Noble, Wizard and Schoolboy are fantastic players, and they are. The only noob there was me. And even though the element that determined those battles was our teamwork and flying our planes the way they should be flown, it is just a pity that we can't always play together, everybody has their real lives, okay, so it's not possible to be always together. But when I have to fly alone, I really miss them because it's so much better when we fly together. Does it mean that being a lone wolf is wrong? Not at all. If that's your thing, so do it and be happy. Everyone's looking for what they like the best, but then just accept the consequences. Flying a P-51 on the deck is wrong? No, it isn't. Well, yeah, let's say it isn't, okay? But again, if you do so, accept the consequences because there will be consequences. There will be Yak 9s or BF-109s jumping on you, and it will be hard for you to do anything once the P-51s aren't meant to be flown on the deck and engage in dogfights there. The disadvantage is yours. Does it mean that if we bring real-life tactics, we will get better in the game? Not necessarily, but we must understand that real-life tactics would work in real life because they weren't static. They would be constantly modified and adapted to the simulations lived by the crews. It's not different here. If given tactics doesn't work in game, so adapt them. Improve them with your pals through trials, brief your missions with them, debrief your missions with them, analyze what went wrong, and try to improve them from the lessons learned. I really believe that the combo, flying your aircraft the way it should be flown, plus teaming up with friends who wish to commit to the idea and fly as a squad, plus training and flying good tactics can really make the difference and make your battles considerably better, even if Gaijin doesn't change anything. Before asking someone to do the right thing, we must do the right thing ourselves. That's my goal here. That's what I'm trying to achieve with the small community we're building. And if you believe something good can be achieved from it as I do, you'll be very welcome to join us in our server on Discord and also to our squadron in War Thunder. I'm not always there. I try to be there at least every Friday night, but there is always someone there, and as long as people keep the respect, everyone is free to fly together and develop good ideas there, share them with the community, and set new standards for us all. Who knows, maybe one day we can make our community something like a virtual Top Gun training system, or carry on training operations like Red Flag or so. I want to see it happening not only in War Thunder, but also in every simulator we play now or come to play in the future, every simulator and game. Now I want to know what you think about those ideas, so leave your comments in the comment section. Just remember to be kind and respectful. If your goal is offending anyone for they think different from you, you'd better not even come, okay? I want a constructive discussion here. And that's all for today, folks. There's more War Thunder and Falcon BMS coming soon, and new things are about to happen, so make sure you hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel in order to keep following this journey with us and not to miss what is coming. Leave a comment sharing your experiences, thoughts, and suggestions. Don't forget to activate the notifications bell so you're notified every time there is a new video here on the channel. You can also join our server on Discord to drive and fly with us and follow us on Instagram. I appreciate you who followed me so far. Salute, and I see you on the next mission.